Day 2 of Trump's counter-programming, the DNC, the former president attacking Kamala's record on crime while in battleground state Michigan.
We are going to stop the Kamala crime wave. Radical liberal Kamala Harris, she's been the ringleader for this anti-crime and the anti-police crusade. You can't walk across the street to get a loaf of bread, you get shot. I will crack down on local Marxist DAs who refuse to enforce the law. We're going to get the gangsters, the drug dealers, the dangerous offenders behind bars. We're going to stand up for law-abiding citizens of America.
And while Trump preaches safety, a scary scene of chaos breaking out right outside the DNC. Anti-Israel protesters breaching a security fence near the site. Thankfully, police officers arrested the agitators before they got any closer. Dana, your thoughts about it? Seems like the president's trying to reset this, and that crime is an issue that is important to voters. Is this the right way to do it as he's doing it? And if it's not, how would you recommend that he address it?
I absolutely think that it's one of the top issues because we keep hearing that from people that we poll, and not just Fox polls, all across the board. And also we know that in major cities, there are efforts to recall prosecutors. There's one happening right now in Los Angeles for George Gascon. So we know that people are actually paying a lot of attention. But also you could do anecdotal evidence, right, Jesse, that we pay attention to. And a mom just yesterday on Fox and Friends saying, when are they going to care about us? So I think this is the right thing. I would add one other point to this. You're going to see a lot of Democrats say, but the crime stats are down. Remember, we talked about Don Lemon on the Atlantic City boardwalk, and he was asking people about the economy. And they're like, the economy's terrible. And he said, no, actually, the statistics show that the economy is great. And they laughed in his face. I think the same thing is about to happen here as the Democrats try to tell you that crime is obviously better. Trey Gowdy, our colleague, has been on air all day knocking that down. I'm sure the judge will do the same. But I also want to add one other thing. Garrett Tenney, our reporter here in Chicago, did a piece for us today on America's Newsroom about the education statistics here in the city. And no matter how much money they are spending on K-12 education, these children here are not able to read or do math. It's like the statistics are outrageous. And so I think that the president and J.D. Vance in particular could add that issue into talking about crime because these communities are desperate for something to change.
Judge, your thoughts on this, and I put it in this context. I've seen some things that are said by Senator Graham, Lindsey Graham, and others that if President Trump stays on issues and not the personality of Kamala Harris, that advantages him. Would you have that same advice? And if so, how should he do that, President Trump?
Well, it's exactly, Harold, what he did today. I mean, he listed a number of issues that need to be addressed. And let's make it clear that in the swing states, it seems that Kamala Harris is ahead, and in most of the country, actually, on the social issues, on abortion, on climate change, and on whether it's unity or democracy or whatever you want to call it. Donald Trump is ahead on immigration and the economy and on crime. So what the president is doing today in Michigan, which was so important, because in Michigan, I think it was 2.8 million for Biden last election, 2.65 for Trump. And right now, there's 101,000 uncommitted voters in Michigan. Donald Trump went there today, and he talked about protecting children from sexual mutilation, making it a felony for medical professionals to perform surgery on minors without parental consent. And he talked about Kamala Harris's experience as a so-called prosecutor. She is the original progressive prosecutor supported by George Soros. Kamala Harris she is not the typical prosecutor. She's the typical San Francisco prosecutor. Her job isn't about putting criminals in jail. Her job is about making sure that criminals can get out of jail and whatever if they end up committing a crime after, as she evidence was so clear after she supported the Minnesota bail fund. She wouldn't seek the death penalty as district attorney in California when then Senator Dianne Feinstein said, had I known that, I would never have supported this woman for the shooting and for the killing of a cop. So Donald Trump is going line by line on the law enforcement issues that people are concerned about and the fact that she can call herself a prosecutor, but she is everything but.
Greg, your thoughts on what the judge is saying. It appears that Kamala Harris has gotten back into this race and got it even. But you think the judge is right that focusing on the issues is the key for the president?
Well, I think you have to be honest about the issues. That's the problem here. Another dangerous hoax is saying crime is down. The only reason you can say that is because many cities are no longer reporting the stats to the FBI. When a narrative goes against your senses, what you hear, what you see, trust your senses. Every one of us intimately knows a victim of crime if we haven't been a victim ourselves. So again, this is not like lying about crowd size. This is a lie that hurts. It would be great to be able to get in a room with sensible Democrats and address how we got here and do it in a gentle way. Maybe it's like, hey, I go to Harold. You know, I do believe Democrats are a compassionate bunch, but your compassion often gets exploited, whether it's criminals pretending to be victims of society or the system, or gangs entering under the guise of asylum seekers. Your good intentions are often exploited, and you should be more diligent in protecting them. I think that's a way to say that. Crime was never a political issue until the last 40 or 50 years when radicals made it so. The desire for a safe and secure society was agreed by all until punishing criminals was seen as a symptom of a corrupt system, an oppressive system. That culminated in the George Floyd riots when all manner of violence was justified under the false name of oppression. That's where we are. If I were a Democrat, I'd be really pissed off. I'd be more pissed off than a Republican to see my beliefs hijacked by radicals. Lastly, it's also curious that once Joe Biden got into power, out went BLM and Antifa, and they didn't actually get any victories. They didn't achieve anything. They just stopped. Why is that? Is it because they served their purpose to create the narrative that it was oppressive only under Trump? Is that going to come back if he wins?
Prime time, your thoughts on this?
I don't understand the Democrat message on crime. It makes no sense to me. They're saying Trump wants some sort of prosecutorial revenge, and then Kamala's running as a prosecutor. It's going to take down Trump, the offender. And her Department of Justice has wasted so much money and manpower prosecuting Trump and Jan 6ers and not prosecuting real crime. Same with the DA in Atlanta. Same with the DA in Manhattan. No one wants crime in this country, yet everybody in the Democratic hierarchy just turns a blind eye to the sex trafficking, the fentanyl dealing, all the trigger pulling, all of the mentally ill, violent people pushing people into subway tracks right under their noses. They're too afraid to confront the issue that it's a very small portion of the African-American community in gangs, very young, committing a large portion of these crimes, and they won't do it. If they talk about crime, they make it about Trump instead of crime victims. That's where the issue is.
They should prosecute anybody in a gang and anybody at January 6th who committed a crime to a...
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.